So today the background footage is just going to be me bounty hunting another player, and it's not going to be super relevant to what I'm talking about, so you don't have to watch the video, you can just listen if you would like. So today I want to talk about multi-crew in Star Citizen and kind of the issues CIG is going to face with incentivizing players to use multi-crew in a game where everybody owns their own ships and everybody wants to be the captain of their own ship. Now, I know that's not going to be 100% true all the time, but for a general rule of thumb, that's how it's going to be. Now, like if you look at examples in real life, this really isn't an issue. Like I own a Jeep. Not all my friends own a Jeep, whether they financially can't afford it, financially they want to put their money towards their other hobbies, they're uninterested in Jeeping, they don't want the responsibility of owning a Jeep. Like, there's quite a few reasons not to own a Jeep. But this works out for me in the end because anytime I go off-roading, one of my friends will ride shotgun because they want the opportunity to have fun for a day or a weekend, and they'll take up responsibilities like pulling my winch line and hooking up to trees, spotting me over hard obstacles, or putting my tow strap on somebody that needs to be pulled out so we can pull them out. Just all kinds of little responsibilities they'll take up for a day. Now, this really isn't going to be possible in Star Citizen because everybody already owns a ship, and if somebody doesn't want to, they're just not going to play Star Citizen. So then the question becomes, how should CIG incentivize players to multi-crew? Should they just make multi-crew ships so OP if you have the option, you have to do it? Or should they try and make multi-crew ships so fun that that's just what you want to do, even if it's not as profitable or whatever? Where both these could be interesting options, I think the best option perhaps is making it so that certain things are locked behind having a multi-crew ship. Like you're not able to complete everything in the game just with a solo single-player ship. Some things you are definitely going to need a multi-crew ship for. So this would allow multi-crew ships to be not a direct upgrade to their single crew counterparts, but potentially offering different gameplay loops and different interesting things to do in the game. A couple examples of this could be like with the Mole and Prospector, and you could also do a similar thing with the Rock and Rock DS, but I'm gonna kind of go over the Mole and Prospector more in this video. Like, the Mole should be able to mine rocks that the Prospector cannot. And I'm not really talking about like where you can just put more power into the rock with the Mole just because you have 3 lasers. Like, I think the Mole should have 3 different types of lasers on there, and you should have to use different combinations of them to break different types of rocks. And this would make it so that, like, hey, the Prospector just can't mine this ore, like you need a Mole to mine this ore with a multi-crew. And so that would kind of open up different gameplay loops where you got to have a little bit of meta knowledge to, hey, we use these 2 different lasers on this rock. We use these 2 different lasers on this rock. We use all 3 of them on this rock. Like, just different stuff like that. That would make the Mole less of a direct upgrade and just doing something completely different. Sorry about that. My dog wanted to go outside and play. But anyway, I think kind of what this would allow them to do is the Mole would no longer be competing with 3 Prospectors. It would be doing its own thing. And so it would make multi-crew more viable in the sense that you don't have to mine 3 times as much whatever the highest selling mineral is. You're mining a completely different mineral that the Prospector just doesn't have access to. And I think you could do a similar thing with the Rock DS. I think if you added 2 mining lasers, different mining lasers, and you were just mining different stuff on the ground that the Rock wasn't able to mine, I think this would make the Rock DS a lot more interesting of an option. And like, if you wanted to go show your buddy the ropes of mining, it would make it a lot more viable to do with the Rock DS and potentially add kind of a lot more fun and benefit, because like, hey, maybe this certain world, that's where you want to bring the Rock DS, but this other world, that's where you want to bring the Rock. Kind of continue to add more meta knowledge and different things that you can do in the game and make it more viable to play with your friends doing different stuff. Which, doing that would also allow the Rock DS not to have to mine twice as much ore or carry so much more ore than the rock to be viable for what it can do. Now, I think there's already in the game, I think there's already a pretty good example of this in the Vanguard. Now, the game's not all there, so it's kind of harder to see how this is going to be, or how this is going to play out. But like the Vanguard with the 3.14 update isn't really competitive against some of these light fighters anymore in a straight up dogfight. But like as the game gets more fleshed out and gets more features, I think you're going to see a really cool niche for the Vanguard where you're able to take 2 people on it and you're able to kind of keep your fighters off the back with that turret, but you're going on long range missions with that where fighters can't go because either fuel, they don't have enough food storage, they don't have like a bathroom, shower type deal, no beds. So you're going to be able to go out and take missions and be out there for a while, unlocking different things with 2 people that you're just not going to be able to do in a solar fighter. And I'd be interested to see how that plays out and if they can really capitalize on that type of gameplay loop in the game. So there's already kind of some ships in the game or have been talked about that would be kind of hard to use the multi-crew to unlock different things. And I think the biggest example of this is the Hurricane and the Scorpius. But I think you will probably want to fly these ships with the server blade slaving the turret to the pilot most of the time. And then because of that, it kind of brings up the question, what's the point of having the extra seat if that's how you're going to fly most of the time? Well, if you got a new player to the game that wants to do something that maybe their ship can't handle, you have that extra seat, so it's nice for that utility. If you got a buddy that just doesn't feel like flying that day, you got an extra seat for utility depending on what you want to do. So I think those are both good options and stuff. And obviously, like if you have a player working the turret, your ship, if he's a good turret gunner, should be significantly more powerful than you just slaving the turret to the pilot seat. Now, I don't really think it should be as powerful if like 2 people with arrows or 2 Gladiuses come in and attack you, but I think it should, like, you should be definitely more powerful than one. But another thing that CGI kind of mentioned once and they haven't really talked about again is being able to replace your second seat with a capsule or basically a prison for bounty hunting. And I think that would add a lot of extra utility and make kind of these 2-seater ships significantly more interesting, because right now the only ships that we have with cells that would be decent for bounty hunting are the Cutlass Blue and the Avenger Stalker. So you really need some other options in there for bounty hunting, and I think this would be a great way to kind of incorporate some of these 2-seater fighter jets and kind of get them in on it and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of interesting ways, and basically just kind of like you're probably not going to use that seat a lot of the time, but it's going to be nice to have there for utility sometimes. So I think that could be the point of multi-crew ships and kind of these 2-seater fighter things, and I think that could be an interesting way of incorporating into the game where it's not, like perhaps it's not worth it all the time, but you can have some fun with it. There's different circumstances where it's actually really good. So let me know in the comments if you agreed with me, disagreed with me, or if you have some of your own ideas for multi-crew that you think would be good and you'd like to see CGI incorporate in the game. But thank you for watching the video, and I hope you all enjoyed it.